Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. My contribution to the day is I asked for us to have a table so that we could put our coffee here since we so you can thank me for that if you happen to be up here later. Okay, so Keith Bryan, and I'm going to pick this up a couple of ways. I think I'm the last person to meet Fernando here for sure, but the irony is you don't even know this. Last night I had dinner with an old friend in New York, and she knows you, Patty Kim at Live Nation. Anyway, an old friend. So now I finally know Fernando, and I moderate him. Now, the second thing is, true confessions, I'm not a gamer. So my fascination with gaming is beyond the fact that I work at Best Buy, so we're a partner of Activision Blizzard. But also, my fascination with gaming is sort of like my fascination with extreme sports, like big wave skiing. I'll never do it, but I'm just fascinated by it. So I'm fascinated by the Activision portfolio and your career, Fernando. So I'll kick it off with this way, and you ended yesterday, I caught the tail end of your stage time yesterday, and you were talking about community, and you compared like a meh campaign for, say, Dove or some other product, which you can certainly know well because you worked at Unilever, but it's kind of, if there's a meh campaign, you just sort of get over it, and you do better the next time. But when it's Activision, your fanboys and fangirls are going to let you know about it. If the experience sucks or there's something different that they didn't expect, you're going to hear about it big time. How do you, hopefully you guys heard that one, how do you leverage innovation to mitigate against that risk? I'll have a couple of questions on this front.
Yeah, I think it's like I think it's beyond just advertising and it includes innovation too. Look, I worked for 18 years in CPG in Unilever. I worked for a little bit over 7 years in fast food QSR with Burger King, Tim Hortons, and Popeyes. And I had the opportunity to work with some really powerful brands, Dove in Unilever, Knorr, Burger King, and yes, there were like people who were like big fans of those brands. But nothing compares to the level of fandom that I see in gaming, and the level of engagement and the feeling that the community basically like owns the game. You know, like no one would feel like, oh, we own Dove Bar. You know what I mean? Like the positioning of the brand goes beyond just the products for Dove, but no one, and it was a brand that it is still like super inspirational to people and does amazing job, but it's different. You know what I mean? The closest that I can think of being Brazilian is the level of fanatism that we have in Brazil for soccer. You know, like and the teams that you support. I support more my local team than the national team. You know, like if the national team loses, I'm like, whatever. My local team loses, I'm like pissed. Like so, and going back to your question, like when you do an ad that doesn't work so well, usually in CPG or QSR, it just goes, nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like it's like never existed. You are throwing money in the black hole. Like no, you don't see sales, you don't see people talking about it. You do an ad that is off in gaming, you will hear back. Like and innovation is the same. You know, like the people who are really into the games, like the games help define their identity. They are part of that community. They feel that they are the champions of doing the right thing for the community. So they will complain about what one would consider a small change in the game as part of something that's innovative, as if it would be the end of the world for them. You know, like on Reddit, Twitter, like they will use every single channel you can think of. LinkedIn, I'm bombarded on LinkedIn, even on that environment, when we do something that they don't welcome. So I think that the key there is to have like a humble approach, you know, listen to what the community is saying, open the channels and talk to them. Because no matter what, even if you do something that's successful, there will be someone who is going to be offended or not like it or think that the previous version was better. That's how it is. We have different points of view, and it's a good thing. So having that open channel of communication and being humble and listen and talk and engage, I think those are the key things for you to not control, but for you to have a healthy relationship with the community.
Great. Well, now we're going to the other side of that coin. So if you if you allow me to call that more reactive and responsive, how do you proactively leverage technology or community or that kind of thing to foster and curate the communities that you have? Are there any interesting things that you guys
Yeah,
are doing
well,
there?
I think we do. I think we probably like do the classic things. We do a lot of social listening, like and social listening, genuinely wanting to hear what they have to say. Like many times we release new patches for the games or we make changes on the games, which come from community feedback. You know what I mean? They are the ones that are playing the game day in, day out. So we do genuinely try to listen to the community. We genuinely try to engage and preempt. We try to explain things before we do. I never did that. Like, for instance, when you're going to launch a game, we have sometimes, as part of the pre-launch material, videos that are more than an hour long with the game team explaining what they're doing in terms of the technology, in terms of the game. I never had a video of an hour long to explain the new fragrance of body wash. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. So we do those things to preempt. We have many of our game guys like super active on Twitch or active on podcasts. You know what I mean? Like, and it's really not reactive. We do that like to be able to give context and explain and to get close to the community. BlizzCon is an event that we haven't done in the past like 2 or 3 years because of the pandemic, but again, it's an event where we bring the community together. It's pretty awesome. Like I'm looking forward for us to eventually go back to doing it not virtually so I can be there. I haven't been to one since I started. But those are all things that we do to give some love back, to listen to them, and to make sure that whatever we are doing are things that will resonate positively with the majority of the community around the games.
Fascinating. I love the idea that you wouldn't do an hour video for a new body wash.
We could, but no one would watch it.
Okay, switching gears a little bit, your titles include everything from Candy Crush to Call of Duty. And that's a wide dynamic range of customer segments, socio-political issues, those kinds of things. Popular, politics can probably be something on your radar at times. How do you guys navigate that dynamic range of all your titles, or even and I've got another question about this coming up, even about the Activision brand. So how do you guys navigate that, and do you use technology to help sort of brand manage that wide dynamic range of segments and titles?
Yeah, like I think that even before getting into that, like it's a cool thing. Like if you're not so close to gaming, like sometimes I hear from companies saying like, "Hey, we want to target gamers," and that in my view doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you, because to me gamers today is everyone. Like everyone plays. I mean, if I can pull the data and show to you, like everyone play one way or another. And it's saying like I want to target gamers is like saying, oh, I want to target watchers for people who watch TV. It doesn't make any sense. The fact that everyone plays doesn't mean that everyone plays the same games, to your point, right? I mean, depending on which game you pick, there will be a different center of gravity in terms of age, demographics, gender, and all those things, right? I mean, Call of Duty skews a little bit more male than female. Candy Crush skews a little bit more female than male. Overwatch is more evenly divided. So it really depends. Like World of Warcraft might be a bit older than Call of Duty Warzone. But if you put all of them together, you end up like covering everyone. So we do use technology to target the different segments. We do use technology to make sure that we are doing the right things for each of those segments. We are constantly making sure that we are not doing like one size fits all for the people. In terms of like the brands, I think that people know the Activision brand, and they know especially the Blizzard brand. I mean, if you are a gamer, you know what I'm talking about. I don't think people know as much the King brand. King is the maker of Candy Crush. So it's basically like 3 business units. You have Activision, you have Blizzard, and you have King. Um, so we do dial up a bit Blizzard on the titles because the players that play Blizzard games see that as a massive stamp of quality. The Activision one is, but Call of Duty is so strong that sometimes it's better just to push Call of Duty, like. And in terms of like, uh, you said the word politics, but to me it's more like social, right? I mean, things that are happening in the world. I think that there are two things that we take into consideration. Take into consideration like what is the ethos of the game, right? I mean, what role we want the game to play in people's lives, and what are the passion points of the people that work for Activision Blizzard. You know what I mean? Like, so we try to marry those two things, and we tend to not necessarily like, oh, there is something happening, let's tap into it. We tap when it makes sense for the game, and when our people feel it's kind of like an important point, and that we should have a point of view on that.
Awesome. Just now going straight into, you mentioned females enjoying the titles that you guys have and understanding the male-female mix and so on. Has that changed over the years? And if it has it been deliberative on your part? And if so, in what way? Or if it's more of a consumer reaction to the titles that you guys have brought to the stage. I'm sure it's a mix because these are, I'm painting like a polarity here. But basically, has that changed your marketing strategy and how you use innovation to make sure that you are responding to the needs of your female audience?
Yeah, to me, it's like the way I see it is beyond. I think that depending on the game, female target audience can be a great opportunity because there are some games that skew much more male. But to me, the point is even beyond that. The way I think about it is like I want the games to be as inclusive as possible. You know what I mean? Like and that taps into different points, right? It taps into representation, right? I mean, first time Call of Duty had an African American in the cover of the game was last year, right? I mean, we had a female hero on Call of Duty last year. It was Paulina. Like before, we didn't have, you know what I mean? Like if you look at Overwatch, which in my view is in our portfolio, it's one of the games I like the most because I think it does an amazing job in terms of purpose and inclusion, right? I mean, 18 characters of Overwatch 1 had prosthetic limbs. And you don't even think about that because in the game is a strength. It's not a weakness. Like, so people don't even realize that. We have African American heroes. We have a champion for body image. We have a champion for environmental sustainability. So we try to make the game as inclusive as it can be because one is the right thing to do, and two, it's better for the business, right? I mean, if I have a game that's very niche or is just one gender, like you are leaving out a massive opportunity on the table. So there is a conscious effort. Not necessarily like to launch new games but to make sure that the games that we have, they are inclusive. I think that there are many things that in the dynamic of gaming that have changed and made games more inclusive, like having a better phone and 5G opened up like a massive door for better quality games in mobile. Right? I mean, and we are in the US, and maybe you don't think about it, but again, using the example of Brazil, not all my friends in Brazil have a PlayStation 5 or have a gaming PC, but everyone has a cell phone, a smartphone. So as we see games like Diablo Immortal or Call of Duty Mobile or any mobile game that you look, it's almost as good as a PlayStation 4. You know what I mean? Like, and in a small screen, it looks amazing. And then you have free-to-play, with microtransactions in the game. You have mobile. You end up like demolishing some of the barriers to play, and that also helps you make the games more inclusive to gender, to socioeconomic levels during crisis, right?
Well, I have great. This is I don't know what the timing is. Oh, we got 4 minutes, so I'm going to ask one last question to tee up any audience questions you have. your career has spanned CPG at Unilever, Burger King, so QSR, and now gaming with one of the best-known brands on the planet, or set of brands on the planet. How would you compare your utilization of technology during that time? Now, of course, that's to some degree a function of time and technology and advancements and things like that, but take it wherever you want. How do you navigate it
Yeah.
differently if you put yourself in each of your
I think that there are one or two big differences among the different businesses, and there is time, right? I mean, I remember being in Unilever and trying to deploy for the first time a global campaign with global media buying, and there was no programmatic. Like we were like literally like in a blackboard, putting the name of the countries and putting some money behind each country on YouTube and here and there, and then seeing the ROI and then putting more money on the best manually, right? I'm sure they don't do that anymore that way, but like so it's a different time. I think that the biggest difference to me is in Unilever, at least when I was there, and that probably has changed because that was more than like 10 years ago. We would sell to Walmart, right? And then I would know how much we sold, but I wouldn't know how much is selling to the final consumer. And 2 months later, I would get a Nielsen report that would tell me like how the thing is really doing, like if it's turning, right? On Burger King, I used to have on my cell phone sales per country live. So I would be able to see even item like what is selling to the final consumer. But I wouldn't know who that people were, right? I mean, because they would go to the store or by delivery, and we wouldn't have the data. Delivery we had, but like in the restaurant you don't. And RBI, Burger King, was investing to make sure that we had a bigger first-party data database, right, with loyalty programs. There are things that you can do to improve there. And on Activision Blizzard, we have everything, right? I mean, not everything, because some things are sold through Apple Store or but we have much more data than I used to have. The Activision Blizzard meeting starts with a cohort analysis and I wouldn't have that. On Unilever, I would have a target audience which was a demographic, and we would have a name for the person and try to describe what the person likes to do. But I never met that person. On Burger King, I had more data, but I didn't know who the person were. And now we can know. I mean, assuming that the person wants us to know, we would know who they are, and we'll be able to give a better service and make sure that the person is seeing things that are more likely to be well received than just like blasting people with communication and promotion.
Excellent. Well, we got a minute. I'll let the directors over here tell us how much time we really have.
You have 5. You're good.
Cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Yes.
There are mics in the back.
I can repeat for you.
Great.
Tony from Dish Media. I have 3 boys. They all play video games. One is what I call light user. Others in the middle of the road. The other guy's super duper user. When you launch a new product, do you look? They're all in the male 12-24 demo. Do you approach each one of them differently, or do you retarget the super user in a different way, or is it all more kind of the 3 of them at once?
I think we approach it differently, and definitely like the super user will get a special attention. Like if you look at the curve of revenue, like the people who are really into it, like most of the revenue, depending on the game, but likely will come from that segment. So they are much more important to attract and retain. So the investment is shifts depending. We also look at different, depending on the age, right? I mean, some games we don't market for under 17. It depends on the country, depends on like where you are. And that will also help define which channel we are going to use and who we are going to partner with. So we do segment even within the same game. especially like based on usage and spend. Yeah. I think we have one there.
Hi, Tanya Yuki Comscore. So my question is, and forgive the crudeness of the phrase, but gaming was one of the quote-unquote beneficiaries, I guess, of people being locked in and spending a lot of time at home. As the world sort of reawakens and you start to compete more with live and real world, how do you think about your customers and your relationships and your time spent, from a more macro perspective?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I was in QSR when the pandemic hit, right? And from my perspective, what I've seen there was an acceleration of things that were already happening. You know what I mean? Like, so we had in the US, we had an explosion of delivery. Our drive-through became even more important. We had to redesign the restaurants because the dining became less relevant and continues to be. You know what I mean? Like, but if I went to, like, when I joined Burger King in 2014, our sales on delivery were 0%. And in China, it was 25%. You know what I mean? Like, when I joined Burger King, there were no self-ordering kiosks in the restaurant. Like, and then in France, it was 85% of sales. So, and all those things that, in my view, were the future, accelerated especially during the first 2-3 years when the pandemic hit. That's the same I see with gaming. Like gaming, in my view, was bound to be much bigger than what it was because it's just a different type of entertainment that's very social by nature. If you look at why people play, like number 1, 2, 3 reasons, they all have to do with connecting with friends, meeting with friends. People play with the headset, talking to each other. Like my friends and I, we drop at a certain time on Warzone, which is Call of Duty, and that's how we connect. So yeah, I think that when people were like in lockdown, because of the nature of gaming today, of being more social, like there was an acceleration, but I don't think it necessarily falls off. It's just like Burger King will never go back to the same levels of dine-in, in my view, that they had before, because it changed forever. Like now that I know, like how many times I ordered Instacart before the pandemic and how many times I order now, I can go to the supermarket now, you know what I mean? But I keep ordering. So I think it will continue to grow. Gaming today is bigger than, people don't realize how big it is. It's bigger than linear TV, music, sports. You can add all that together, gaming is still bigger. And I don't think it will decline because I think that people may play differently. They may play more mobile because they will be on the go. I think that they will value more cross progression. I can play a little bit on mobile. I can play a little bit on PC at night. I can play in a Nintendo Switch if I am with my kids. So I think it will continue to grow differently than before.
I'm gonna have to. I mean, unless I get overruled, I think
One more.
One more right here.
Hey, Fernando, how are you?
Good.
So I keep hearing about how gaming is kind of the gateway to Web3, and there's a ton of lessons to be learned from gaming that we can use in thinking about how we enter, the metaverse and, the other aspects of Web3. Can you talk about what some of those lessons might be?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that when many things that I hear these days, and maybe it's just my ignorance, but many things that I hear these days as being like, oh, this new thing, like that's coming, blah, 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 is the stuff that I experienced on gaming more than 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, for instance, when, and I'll pull an example from yesterday. So when people say like, oh, yes, is this a space that you can be whoever you want and you can connect with others and you can have a meeting there and no one will going to judge your physical appearance and this and that. That's World of Warcraft. Yeah, like that's Second Life 20 years ago, maybe. So to me, there are many things that people bring up as being like this new thing, which in my view, on a way or another, has been present in gaming for longer. I think one example of things that people can learn is like I see, and I'm just giving my point of view, not trying to be judgmental or anything, okay? And I might be wrong about things I say, but when I see many brands saying like, oh, I need to have a presence on the metaverse. I need to have a presence there. And they go, and if you are a bank, you create a branch in the metaverse. Like you build the building and it's there. Like the real example, probably more than one bank has done that. Or I'm an advertising agency. They will create the advertising agency on the metaverse. Well, if you think that gaming has some similarities to that in terms of the environment and how people behave in that universe, if you open a bank branch inside Call of Duty, it's not going to go well, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's not what people want. That's not what they are there for. I think that instead of thinking, just as an example, instead of thinking of like, how can my brand be present there on that space, because that is going to make us look cool and modern, and we have to be there. Others are doing, right? Instead of asking, going through that path, my suggestion, because of gaming, would be to think, how can I add value to that experience that people are having there? You know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, is the key question that you need to be able to answer if you need to be present in that universe. Like, oh, I want to do a partnership with Overwatch or with World of Warcraft. Great. How can you add value to the player? Because the player is there to have a certain experience, to hang around with their friends, or like to be part of that community. He or she, they are not there to see your product. You know, so if your product wants to be in that universe, what are you giving back? You know, like, what value are you adding? Oh, I don't know. Well, think about like, what value do you add in real life? Understand that community really well to understand what makes them tick, and then figure out like, how can you translate that to that environment? So that to me is like thinking about brand presence in Web3. Some logics that I tend to use on gaming, or even when we're talking about with partners that we want to bring in to the game, this is the type of logic that we try to apply. Cool. I think we're getting kicked out. Keith, thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah, no, thanks for having us, guys. Thank you very much.